No one in the studio expected the explosion. Not the moderators. Not the audience. Not even Karoline Leavitt herself. But 38 minutes into the nationally televised town hall, Gavin Newsom snapped, calmly, surgically, and with a precision that froze every camera in the room. The moment began as a routine policy exchange. Leavitt pressed Newsom hard on immigration numbers, her tone sharp enough to slice through the stage lights. But then she pivoted, fast, rehearsed, intentional. "So, Governor," she said, leaning forward with a smirk, "are you ever going to stop acting like the opposition's emotional support mascot?" The audience gasped, half in shock, half in anticipation. Newsom didn't move. Didn't blink. He just stared at her, the silence tightening like a wire between them. The moderator shifted in his seat, sensing the temperature rising. Leavitt continued, "I mean, if Trump sneezes, you write a speech about it. If he posts a sentence, you melt down online. At what point do we call it what it is, an obsession?" A ripple moved through the crowd. Cameras zoomed closer. Producers leaned in over control boards. And then, Newsom spoke, low, controlled, but carrying the force of a detonating grenade. "Karoline," he said, "you keep talking about obsession, but let's be honest." He gestured slowly toward her notes. "What's the difference between you and someone screaming their Trump's mouthpiece every time a microphone turns on?" The room erupted. The moderator's jaw dropped. Leavitt's smile shattered. For a full second, no one breathed. This wasn't a debate anymore. This was a collision, raw, unscripted, and instantly viral. For a moment, the studio felt weightless, like the air itself had stopped moving. Karoline Leavitt blinked, stunned, as if Newsom's words had struck with physical force. The audience reacted in a rolling wave, gasps, murmurs, a few scattered laughs from people who couldn't believe what they'd just heard. Somewhere in the control room, a producer yelled, "Clip that. Clip that now." Leavitt recovered fast. She leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms tightly, her jaw locking into place. "Oh, that's cute," she said, though her voice cracked at the edges. "Resort to insults when you can't defend your own platform?" Newsom didn't look away. Didn't soften. His tone remained devastatingly calm. "No," he said. "I'm pointing out the obvious. Every question you've asked tonight came straight from Trump's last rally notes. You're not debating, you're relaying." The crowd reacted again, louder this time. Leavitt's cheeks reddened. "You think calling me a mouthpiece makes you brave?" she snapped. "It makes you predictable. It makes you desperate." Newsom lowered his hands on the podium. "What it makes me," he said evenly, "is tired. Tired of watching conversations collapse into rehearsed talking points from someone who behaves like a political ventriloquist's doll." Even the moderator lost composure, coughing to hide a laugh. Leavitt slammed her notepad shut. "You're unbelievable," she hissed. "You act like anyone who challenges you is some kind of puppet." "Not everyone," Newsom replied. "Just the ones who keep proving it." The audience roared. In the shadows backstage, aides for both campaigns scrambled. Phones out, messaging teams already drafting statements, attack ads, defenses, counter-defenses. The clip had gone viral before the debate even ended. This wasn't a political exchange anymore. It was a battlefield. And both sides had just fired their opening shots. The moderators had lost control, and everyone knew it. The tension between Newsom and Leavitt had shifted from political disagreement to something sharper. Two storms colliding on live television with nowhere for the pressure to escape. Leavitt leaned forward, planting her elbows on the desk. Her expression hardened into something between outrage and calculation. "Fine," she said. "If we're calling out loyalties, let's call out yours, Governor." Newsom raised a brow, unbothered. "You love to pretend you're independent," she continued, voice rising. But we both know you answer to your own elite circle. Tech donors, Hollywood backers, coastal insiders, you don't speak for regular Americans. You speak for the people who buy your spotlight. A few audience members murmured, she had landed a hit. But Newsom didn't flinch. Karoline, at least my supporters exist outside of one man's shadow. The jab hit hard. Leavitt's eyes narrowed. You don't know anything about my principles. Newsom tilted his head. Then show them. Because so far, everything you've said tonight has been an echo. Gasps again. The air crackled like a live wire. Leavitt straightened sharply. You think you're the only one with a spine? The only one who stands up to someone? I challenge Trump. I challenge Biden. I challenge you. Newsom cut in smoothly. Challenging requires originality. Repeating requires volume. You're good at the second. Even the moderator winced. Leavitt slammed a hand on the desk. I don't take orders from anyone. Newsom responded instantly, the timing perfect, deadly. Then stop talking like someone who does. The reaction was explosive, cheers, gasps, stunned silence blending into one chaotic roar. Behind the cameras, campaign staff exchanged frantic looks. This confrontation had spiraled far beyond policy. It was raw ego, identity, and pride clashing under 1,000 lights. And the night wasn't done with them yet. The moderator finally tried to intervene, voice trembling like he was stepping between two charging animals. Let's move on to the next question. But the room wasn't listening. The audience wasn't listening. And Leavitt definitely wasn't done. She pointed a finger at Newsom, her voice sharp enough to cut the air. You want originality? Here's some. You are terrified of strong conservatives. Terrified. Every time one of us speaks, you twist it into some conspiracy that makes you feel smarter. Newsom exhaled slowly, a calm that felt almost dangerous. Karoline, I don't fear conservatives. I fear rehearsed outrage masquerading as leadership. The line landed with surgical precision. Leavitt laughed, short, humorless, the kind that announces she's done playing. You condescend to everyone who doesn't worship your policies. You talk about me echoing someone else? At least I know where I stand. You shift your stance based on whatever gets the loudest applause. Newsom's expression sharpened. No. I shift based on facts. Something you treat like optional accessories. The crowd erupted again, laughter, shock, muttered cursing, a cocktail of emotions no moderator could handle. Leavitt leaned forward, eyes blazing. You think you're the adult in the room, don't you? Above it all. But the truth is. Newsom cut her off with the calmest voice of the night. The truth is you're angry because for the first time tonight, someone challenged the script you walked in with. Her mouth opened, then closed. Just for a second. The audience caught it. The cameras caught it. America caught it. A crack in her armor. The moderator swallowed hard and tried again. Okay, clearly, this is intense. Let's take a question from the audience. But even as the camera panned, the tension between Newsom and Leavitt didn't fade. It tightened. Coiled. Ready for the next blow. This wasn't just a debate anymore. This was dominance, being claimed, defended, and torn apart live on national television. The moment the audience member stood up, every camera in the room pivoted. She looked young, nervous, but determined, clutching the mic like she'd rehearsed this moment in the mirror 100 times. My question is for Governor Newsom, she said. If you think Karoline is repeating talking points, what do you think she really stands for? The crowd reacted with another wave of murmurs. Leavitt straightened, ready to seize the moment. But Newsom beat her to it. He turned toward the young woman with a calm, measured seriousness. "I think she stands for ambition," he said. "That part isn't the issue." He paused, just long enough for the silence to sharpen. "The issue," he continued, "is when ambition becomes obedience. When someone trades their own voice for somebody else's approval." It was subtle, but deadly. Leavitt's jaw tightened. "So I don't think for myself now?" Newsom didn't raise his voice. "Karoline, your potential is real. But potential gets wasted when someone becomes a loudspeaker for another person's agenda." The room exploded, gasps, whispers, phones lifted in the air. Leavitt snapped back instantly. "You don't get to tell me what my agenda is." Newsom nodded once. "Then show it. Because all night, you've shown his." That was it. That was the moment. Everyone in the studio felt it, the shift, the spark, the viral ignition. A camera operator whispered, "This one's going everywhere." He was right. Within seconds, the clip was already trending. Within minutes, news outlets were scrambling for context. Within hours, the moment was the headline on every major political board. Newsom accuses Leavitt of being a mouthpiece, on live TV. Leavitt fires back, "You don't own the truth." And in campaign offices on both coasts, staffers watched the footage with widening eyes. This wasn't just a debate highlight. It was a cultural flashpoint. One that neither side could control anymore. By dawn, the debate clip had become the most shared political moment of the month. Every news outlet ran the same 10 seconds on repeat, Newsom leaning forward, voice razor-sharp, saying, "Because all night, you've shown his." It didn't matter how many times viewers saw it, each replay seemed to amplify the shockwave. Cable networks went into emergency mode. CNN called it a devastating rhetorical strike. Fox News labeled it an elitist smear. MSNBC declared it the moment the mask slipped on both sides. Panels erupted into chaos. Commentators shouted over each other, dissecting the tone, intent, subtext, body language, even the inhalations between words. Clips of Leavitt slamming her notepad trended alongside slow-motion edits of Newsom's calm under pressure posture. By mid-morning, hashtags were everywhere. Hashtag Mouthpiece moment. Hashtag Newsom vs. Leavitt. Hashtag debate detonation. Students debated it in hallways. Office workers whispered about it over coffee machines. Drivers listened to talk radio hosts who couldn't decide whether Newsom had crossed a line or simply exposed one. Meanwhile, the campaigns were cracking. At Leavitt headquarters, aides huddled around laptops, faces lit by screens filled with endless commentary. One advisor slammed a fist onto the table. "He's framing her as controlled. If that sticks, she's done." Another fired back, "Then she needs to punch back harder." No hesitation. Leavitt herself paced in a back room, furious. "He thinks I'm someone's puppet," she muttered. "I'm going to show him exactly how wrong he is." But in Sacramento, Newsom's team wasn't celebrating either. A communications strategist rubbed his temples. "She's going to retaliate. Hard. And if she sells the narrative that he's targeting her personally, it could backfire." Newsom remained quiet, watching the clip on a loop, not the words, but the moment Leavitt froze. "She wasn't angry," he finally said. "She was threatened." The strategist swallowed. "And that makes her dangerous. Because now, with millions watching, both sides needed the next move. And neither could afford to blink." By early afternoon, Karoline Leavitt was no longer the stunned debater caught off guard on live TV. She had transformed into something else, focused, sharpened, and fueled by a mix of humiliation and determination. Her team gathered around as she rehearsed her statement, but she waved them off. "No scripts," she said. "If he thinks I'm a mouthpiece, I'm going to show him exactly how wrong that is." At 3:12 p.m., she stepped in front of a podium with more cameras pointed at her than any moment in her career. Reporters leaned forward, expecting damage control. Instead, she launched a full-scale counteroffensive. Governor Newsom didn't call out bias last night, she began, voice firm. He revealed his own. She paused, letting the silence stretch. He dismissed my arguments not because they lacked substance, but because they didn't align with his worldview. Flashes burst across the room. And let me be perfectly clear, she continued, staring directly into the cameras, I don't take orders from Donald Trump. I don't take orders from anyone. I stand for what millions of Americans believe. Whether Newsom likes it or not. The moment hit social media like a meteor. But she wasn't done. She leaned in. If the governor wants to question my independence, maybe we should talk about who he listens to. Billionaire donors? Hollywood allies? Tech executives who treat him like a pet project? The reporters jolted upright. This wasn't defense. This was retaliation. And as for his little jab, she said, smirking for the first time since the debate. If calling out recycled talking points makes me a mouthpiece, then what does repeating elite-approved narratives make him? The room exploded. Within minutes, clips of the speech were everywhere. Hashtags shifted. Narratives evolved. Commentators scrambled to rewrite their analysis. In Sacramento, Newsom watched the broadcast silently, arms crossed. His communications director turned to him carefully. She hit back hard, she said. This will shift public opinion. Newsom didn't look away from the screen. It's not the hit that matters, he said quietly. It's what comes after. Because this wasn't a disagreement anymore. It was a duel, live, national, and escalating. By evening, the political world had turned into a pressure cooker. Newsom's attack had gone viral. Leavitt's counterstrike had ignited her base. But the real explosion came when a mysterious leak surfaced online, one that neither campaign was prepared for. At 7:46 p.m. An anonymous account on X, formerly Twitter, dropped a bombshell. A leaked internal memo from Leavitt's communications team. Its header was unmistakable. Debate strategy, Phase 2, amplify Trump alignment narrative. Screenshots spread within seconds. Phrases circled in red ink read. Stay on messaging threads approved by Trump allies. Use Trump-adjacent framing to maintain alignment with conservative base. Avoid deviation from the narrative, consistency is crucial. The internet detonated. Commentators on every network scrambled to interpret it. Some called it proof that Newsom had been right all along. Others insisted it was fabricated or taken wildly out of context. Leavitt's team went into meltdown. One aide shouted, "Who leaked this?" Another chimed in, "It doesn't matter who leaked it, what matters is how it looks." Karoline herself read the memo with a fury that bordered on volcanic. "This makes me look like exactly what he accused me of," she whispered. Her campaign manager stepped forward carefully. "We can deny it. Or we can pivot." Leavitt glared at him. "No. We fight. We go after his team next." But miles away in Sacramento, Newsom's headquarters was celebrating too early. Another leak surfaced, this time targeting him. A screenshot from a digital chat among Newsom advisors. "Push the mouthpiece angle harder, polls shift when we frame her as controlled." The internet roared again. Suddenly, both sides were exposed. Now the narrative wasn't about who was right, it was about who was manipulating whom. Newsom stared at the leaked image, jaw tight. "They're going to say we planned the entire moment," he muttered. His strategist sighed. "They won't say it. They're already broadcasting it." The stage was no longer a debate hall. It had become a minefield. And every new leak set off another explosion. The double leak sent the political landscape into chaos. What had started as a fiery debate moment was now a full-blown scandal storm, and both campaigns were bleeding credibility. Every network banner screamed a variation of the same headline. Who's manipulating whom? Leavitt memo versus Newsom chat, a political arms race. The public didn't know who to believe anymore. And that uncertainty became gasoline. By morning, Newsom was trending for one reason. People claimed his "mouthpiece" line had been scripted. Clips of him rehearsing, warming up backstage, even adjusting his mic were repurposed as proof. TikTok detectives slowed the footage to frame-by-frame analysis, adding ominous music and red arrows. Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt faced a different fire. The memo tied her messaging directly to Trump-adjacent figures. Commentators wondered aloud whether she had any autonomy, or whether her political rise was engineered. She didn't take it well. At 11:14 a.m., she burst into her strategy room, slamming the memo printout on the table. These notes were internal guidelines, not orders, she snapped. And we're going to say that publicly. Her campaign manager shook his head. Karoline, if you deny too aggressively, they'll think you're covering something. What do you expect me to do? She fired back. Sit there while he paints me as a puppet? You fight, he said, but strategically. But Leavitt was past strategy. She was at the breaking point. Across the country, Newsom was facing his own reckoning. His senior advisor set a tablet on the table, displaying polling data that had shifted overnight. We're dropping with independents, she said, voice tight. They don't like manufactured moments. And the leak makes us look calculated. Newsom rubbed his temples. It wasn't manufactured. It was the truth. Doesn't matter, she replied. Perception is winning. Facts are drowning. He looked out the window, at the reporters gathering like vultures outside the building. What do they want from me? He asked. His advisor hesitated, then answered honestly. They want something real. Something human. Not strategy. Newsom straightened slowly. Then that's what they'll get. And miles away, Leavitt was preparing her own version of real. Two adversaries. Two narratives collapsing. Two political careers teetering on the edge. The final blow was coming. And neither side could predict what shape it would take. The network called it a special emergency broadcast, but everyone knew what it really was, a showdown. For the first time since the debate, Newsom and Leavitt agreed to appear in the same studio, live, unfiltered, and without pre-approved talking points. The stage lights burned brighter than normal, the silence heavier. Even the moderators looked nervous. When the cameras went live, Leavitt and Newsom sat across from each other like two forces caught in the eye of a storm. The moderator cleared his throat. Tonight, America wants answers. Not from your teams. From you. A long pause. Then Leavitt spoke first. Governor, you called me a mouthpiece. You questioned my independence. And overnight, the leaked memo made it look like you were right. She inhaled sharply. But you know what? I'm done letting strategists shape how I respond. So here's the truth, on my terms. The studio held its breath. I stand with the conservative base because I believe in it. Not because anyone tells me to. If that memo suggested otherwise, then fine, our team needs work. But I won't let a leak define who I am. It was the most controlled, genuine thing she'd said all week. Newsom didn't fire back. Instead, he surprised everyone. Karoline, he said calmly, you're stronger than your team made you look. And the same is true for mine. The chat they leaked from my advisors? That wasn't the whole story. But the damage is done. It made me look calculated, like I came after you for sport. I didn't. The audience murmured. Leavitt blinked, thrown off. Then why did you say it? Newsom looked her in the eyes, not as an opponent but as a human being caught in the machine. Because I saw potential being wasted. You're talented, but your messaging felt borrowed. And I reacted. Maybe too strongly. Maybe unfairly. For the first time, Leavitt's expression softened. The moderator whispered, "Is that an apology?" Newsom shrugged. "It's honesty." Leavitt hesitated, then nodded. "Then here's mine. I attacked your supporters out of anger, not conviction." A moment of silence stretched, unexpected, vulnerable, real. Then Newsom smirked faintly. "So, are we calling a truce?" Leavitt lifted an eyebrow. "Temporary. Don't get sentimental." The audience laughed. The tension finally cracked. News networks blasted the clip within minutes. Commentators called it the first honest political moment in months. The piggy crisis, the Mouthpiece scandal, the double leaks. All of it ended not with a blow, but with two rivals choosing to be real for once. And America couldn't stop watching.